This can sure to put Mercedes out of business.
Overall sales and high-end model sales remain weak.
The German giant on Friday cut profit forecasts after weak sales and earnings in the second quarter.
Dampening on consumer sentiment.
Mercedes-Benz that they lost about 50% of profits in the third quarter of this year relative to what they saw last year, and it now warrants some major cost cutting. As the Chinese market continues to falter and weaken, less people seem inclined to be buying luxury vehicles. Mercedes-Benz lands smack dab in the middle, and unfortunately, they've seen their profit margins drop drastically from 12.4% the year before to about 4.7% this year. Mercedes-Benz Chief Financial Officer Harald Wilhelm quoted recently, "We are taking a prudent view about market evaluation going forward, and we will step up all efforts on further efficiency increases and cost improvements across the business." And for comparisons, we know BMW and Volkswagen have been struggling in terms of sales and their cost share prices, both of which have seen less than 1% decline in share value. On that note, Mercedes-Benz as of Friday saw a 1.2% decline in their overall share prices, a clear indication that not only are buyers not buying, but investors don't have the confidence in the brand holding it together. And with the Pan-European Auto Index being down about 10% and Mercedes being down 9.9%, it's clear that this is the roughest sector in the industry. And the transition to electrified market has left brands like Mercedes-Benz in the lurch, trying to create vehicles like the EQE, EQS, which clearly were not selling. Buyers weren't interested in that type of vehicle, both at a premium level as well as a non-Tesla based electric vehicle. It left that sort of orphan, and a lot of people just didn't buy them. And the few that did tried to flip them after a year or two and found the resale on those vehicles absolutely brutal, with about a 50% depreciation on average in a 2 to 3 year time frame of some of their premium electric vehicles. It's quite indicative that people weren't looking at buying these even on the used car market. And many Mercedes-Benz legacy loyalists now also feel that they've lost their way, with a lot of the V6 engines being replaced with turbocharged 4-cylinder engines. A lot of the V8s are being displaced, and the general direction by putting even in some of their enthusiast vehicles like the C63S, transforming what was a glorious high-revving naturally aspirated V8 engine, transitioning to a smaller V8 with a turbo, and now finally converting that altogether for a turbocharged 4-cylinder bolted together with some hybrid technology means that they've all pretty much ignored what the actual Mercedes-Benz enthusiasts were really looking for: power, performance, and prestige. My personal experience after owning a Mercedes-Benz too is they have all of the technology, they have all the looks, they have what appears to be all of the greatness that Mercedes has always offered until you own it. And then you find underneath the skin, parts are loose, parts don't hold together, the plastics aren't that well made, and generally with a 4-cylinder engine under the hood, it lacks a lot of inspiration, and that's been my personal experience after owning a late model C-Class Mercedes. And with revenue jumping off the cliff, almost 7% plunge down to about $37.3 billion. And the third quarter results for Mercedes-Benz from this year to last year dropped from $2.3 billion down to $1.9 billion. That's a $4 billion loss in one 365-day period.
As Mercedes navigates these challenges, it remains optimistic about the second half of 2024, expecting a rise in plug-in hybrid sales and improved market conditions in Europe and the US.
And while we see strong competition over in China with them creating much mass-produced low-cost vehicles, that leaves a lot of buyers who don't have the well-heeled wallets to go out and buy a late-model Mercedes-Benz. Rather, they look for more cost-effective means. And then now the Chinese market, we've seen this drastic swing away from a lot of these European vehicles that are being sold in China as one of the largest markets in the planet, are now making choices to buy something different. That's where Mercedes, Volkswagen, and many other manufacturers are struggling right now. The Chinese market has dictated of the future success of many of these brands. Analysts polled by FactSet had expected a net profit to reach about $2.1 billion on revenue of about $39.2 billion. According to Wilhelm, the CFO, he said the Q3 results did not meet our expectations. Nonetheless, Mercedes-Benz continues to generate solid cash flows even in challenging times. Now, as an owner of a late model Mercedes-Benz, I can attest that cost-cutting measures have been going on for some significant period of time in Mercedes, in my own personal opinion and my own personal experience. The quality of the parts aren't there. in my opinion, the drivetrains are lower cost, more volume production, and if clearly it becomes more of a skin of what it used to be. A luxury car, and now it feels a lot more like driving a Honda with a Mercedes badge on it. Wilhelm also reporting that the company will be looking to reduce its cost base, including materials used for its cars, material used in factories, and labor costs. And Wilhelm currently declines the idea that there could in fact be more headcount reductions. Mercedes is looking at other ways to manage the costs, whether it's manufacturing costs, supply chain costs, and generally overall lowering costs. We've heard this before. Stellantis has been going through cost-cutting measures, also known as the doghouse, where they're looking at a lot of their finances, keeping it close to the chest, getting rid of non-essential purchases, and Mercedes-Benz feels like they're going down the same space. We've also seen the same problem go on with Volkswagen, and Volkswagen now is looking at trying to recoup $11 billion of profit loss, which could include manufacturing costs, closing plants down, as well as eliminating vast amounts of staff. And the CFO at Mercedes-Benz has commented that they've been going through these cost-cutting reductions over the last 5 years. And take it from me, I've got a 2018 Mercedes C-Class, and I feel like it's not nearly the quality that you would find in a vehicle that's 10 years earlier. But just like many other manufacturers, just like Stellantis, Mercedes-Benz is not exempt from the fact that reaction by the customers to high increased prices of the MSRPs and the sticker increases from the factory. I mean, it's not uncommon to see brand new Mercedes S-Class vehicles going for as much as $303,000 Canadian. The G-Class now retails for over $250,000 in many markets. And even Mercedes' smallest subcompact SUV called the GLB, as entry-level as they come, is now stickering for over $72,000 in the Canadian market. Clearly, prices are drastically up. We're seeing increases of 30 to 35% across the board in many of these different models by Mercedes. So if they're looking at garnering some extra revenue by selling to the retail market, maybe looking at selling at a lower, more cost-effective price point may be in order. But Volkswagen, BMW, and almost every other European manufacturer, including Mercedes today, is now looking at reducing their full-year forecast as the Chinese market is ramping up and the competition is becoming far too stiff. Mercedes-Benz now is finding a serious struggle. Where they traditionally didn't have that level of competition, today they really have to adjust their revenue model. And all car makers had to really take it easy, back off on the expectation of selling in the Chinese market as the economic slowdown increases, the desirability of buying a premium vehicle decreases, and people are just looking for a more cost-effective way for transportation. The Chinese market is one of the leading indicators as to how the rest of the industry is going to do, with China, of course, dictating the overall success of Mercedes-Benz. Things are looking bleak. And many manufacturers, including Mercedes-Benz, is extremely fearful for the tariffs that may be imposed on a lot of import vehicles coming from China. Batteries, electric vehicles. And now while a lot of these governments are trying to apply these tariffs to try to control the imports and rather export their vehicles to help the world go around, in applying those tariffs, that just means that could raise overall costs for the manufacturer and shake up the supply chain network. Now while negotiations between Brussels and Beijing have been going on, Mercedes-Benz clearly wants a little bit of breathing space, and the application of these tariffs is the literal nail in the proverbial coffin for Benz. Mercedes-Benz has urged the European Commission to delay these tariffs so that hopefully they can work out a deal, and calls this all one big mistake. The writing's on the wall for a lot of manufacturers, whether they're European or any other brand, trading business with China, one of the strongest global networks, and by applying tariffs to countries like China, just creates more instability in the relationships, and unfortunately what that means is dwindling sales. So the perfect storm seems to be evolving. With the application of these tariffs, less Chinese buyers are interested in buying Mercedes-Benz with the increased pricing. We're also seeing the North American, European buyers also don't have the money that they once had with these increased prices. As I already showed you, over $300,000 for an S-Class. The writing is on the wall. Export is down drastically. Local markets are down because of cost. Inflation is taking a bigger bite out of buyers' pockets. And unfortunately, people just don't have the money with the cost of living crisis and how it continues on with increased cost of living, inflation holding steady, and prices rising by companies like Mercedes-Benz just means the gap between have and have-nots is much, much wider, and the sales continue to tank. With all of that said, you want to check out that where do vehicles that actually don't sell go? Right there. Hope to see each and every one of you real soon. See you then. Bye-bye.